Welcome back. The DadPOD episode 5, I think. All right. I've got two amazing guests today. I'll introduce them in a second. But make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're liking, make sure you're commenting. We're going to have a great conversation today. Two people that I admire, I like. They're bald, they're beautiful. And we'll get into it now. Okay. We got Danny Webster on the left, and we got Joe Vines on the right. Would you like to introduce yourself first, Dan?
Yeah, my name's Danny. I am the proud coach to Damo, and me and my wife own a business in Bromley, which is called Fabers CrossFit.
Thank you, Dan. Vinesy?
It's hard to follow. Coach is the coach. I'm Joe Vines. I've been coached by Damo over the last 6-7 months, which has been great. And I'm currently, I'm a coach at Bromley under-15s from a football perspective, and I'm a specialist in talent acquisition in my day job.
Thank you very much, both of you. We're going to get straight into it, right? I've got a question for Danny first, right? But I'm going to lead to this question. Because I didn't tell him I was going to do this, right? I've known Danny since January, right? So maybe what's that, 10 months. I've learned a lot from this guy, right? He's a little bit annoying sometimes. He gets under my skin sometimes, but he's taught me one thing, right? Servitude. This guy has a genuine heart for servitude, and he's made me change the way that I run my business and talk to people. He is compassionate. He is caring. He is a lot of things. He's made me understand what true empathy is. I thought I'd just lead before this question gets going, Dan, right?
Where you going with it, mate?
The question I have for Dan is, CrossFit, you're a beast, right? Your missus is a beast. CrossFit has impacted my life, changed my life. Tell me about your journey on CrossFit, and how it's influenced you.
CrossFit's made a massive impact in my life. It's turned me from a very overweight man to what I would call a relatively healthy individual, and it's become my passion to transfer that over to as many human beings as possible. I met my wife for it, so I'm ever so grateful for it. But I found CrossFit in prison, funny enough. I was in a pretty bad place, went to prison for a crime I committed in my 20s, and I was at a pretty rock bottom place, and one of the, water finds its own level in that place, and one of the guys I got to know quite well said to me, look, come and start training with me in the gym. I'm doing this thing called CrossFit. And it just became, it was like, I think everyone's different. Some people find church, don't they? And for me, it just become my church, man. I just got obsessed with it. It was incredible. And then I was enjoying it so much and I went from 120 kilos to 73 kilos, huge impact on my fitness, that I started training people in prison while I was doing it. And then they were asking me how to perform certain movements, wasn't too sure on how to do it. So I got hold of this book called Becoming a Supple Leopard. And then from there, I just started coaching people inside, and I was like, I'd love to do this. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So when I got out, I went to a Fabers CrossFit, which my wife's the owner of, and I started getting coached by her, fell in love with her, and I stopped doing the business that I was doing, and then just committed my life last sort of 10 years into just becoming the best coach I could possibly be to change people's lives like it changed mine. And that's kind of the impact it's had on me. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way, Dan, man. Thank you for sharing that. What was it? What was the spark? Was it CrossFit? Fitness? Was it coaching? What was it? Was it the place you was at? Did you need that? Because you're also a God-fearing man. You're Christian, right? So what was
Christian,
it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I would say at the time, I think at the time I was doing quite simple workouts, like these WODs. I was just hearing about these WODs, and I was doing these quite simple WODs, and committing my life to that. It got everything out that I needed. There was there was darkness in there that I was getting out in these workouts, and then there was more complicated movements to it. I think the thing with CrossFit is it hits so many different dynamics. You got gymnastics, you got Olympic lifting, you got your compound movements, and then you got your aerobic capacity, and so many of these things were such big goals to try and achieve. You can't master all of them at once, so you're always growing. Does that make sense? There's always this sense of continuously growing throughout them. So I suppose for me that's what it's always been a journey that I'm going on. And then coaching it is another whole element, because you got to understand movement, understand how that's incorporated as independent individuals. So I suppose for me the sparks it's probably changed as I've gone through my journey in CrossFit, but at the time it was, I could just get my head into it and just get hard into that training, and then it's just developed into so much more. It becomes such a high skilled sport. You're always growing in it. You can't master it.
I got a bit of a confession actually. I didn't like CrossFit, I didn't like it. You know why? But I think envy. You know what? I used to watch from a distance, and I'd be like, you can't be good at everything. I used to watch some guys, like through social media.
Yeah.
And I'd see like a guy handstanding, running a sub 20-minute 5K, lifting heavy. And I still do it now, yeah. My reasoning, when someone's really good at something, I say, they're on drugs. Right? So I used to just point fingers. But coming to work with you, as I said, mentioned before, you've taught me a lot about coaching and CrossFit, but I saw it's like the attention to detail, the empathy you have for each individual. That's one thing I've learned from you. Just seeing you, like, you'll come up to me and you'll like sincerely look at what I'm doing and move to someone else. So I can see that the passion's CrossFit. But I thought, where you met it in prison, like, was there a form of escapism behind it as well?
Yeah,
like,
100%. Yeah, okay. I'd bury myself, and I was seeing these changes. And I suppose changes started to come that when I get out, I want people to see that I'm a different human. And I'm a different person. I was seeing this growth. I'm like, wow, I could be people wouldn't even recognize the human being I come out. That was probably the first spark. And then it just started going from it. It's tough to say because I was so different when I first started to where I am now. But my main interest now is solely on the basis that I just want to change as many lives. I want to give back what it gave to me, and you do that because, like you said, I love when I get someone like yourself and they walk in, and usually these people are strong, but their skill level is so low.
My skill level was low.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But the skill levels, like, they're strong or they're fast or they're fit. I've got a guy at the moment, he's just done a 100K run.
Ted, yeah.
But yeah, Ted, right? But then you stick Ted into other elements of it, and he's like, how are these people moving so quickly? How are they doing all this stuff with weight that's heavier than me? And there's, and for him, he's just had to be humble, and he is a humble guy actually. But for him, it's been really humbling, and I love watching that element of it. And it was same for you. Yeah. It was like you were like you get next to my wife, she's like your enemy, isn't she? And you see these people that are super fit, but you start putting into certain elements, starting equations of it, gymnastics and volume training with regards. And it's like
different level. Listen,
Gemma's
Booney, even his wife, listen, mate, she's annoying. And she's got no like emotion. She just like beats you, and she's just like what? If I beat her, mate, I make sure I write it on the board. Yeah, you can't listen. She got no emotion that like to it.
She won't show you she's hurting. My wife's a very different creature. Yeah, she's an incredible human being.
Yeah, I cannot speak, and I swear to you, we're doing like a wall balls. It's a very simple movement. Yeah. I'm looking at her and I'm like, are you not going to show me that you're hurting at all? Like, and I'm like, and then I'm not trying to drop it. Like, honestly, Vandy, it's a sight to see and very humbling, isn't it? Humbling.
Yeah, I admire my wife. I mean, she's my like she's as an athlete, as a coach. Coaches and athletes are two different things. They're not the same. Athletes always think they're a coach, but we can all say coaches and athletes are very different. And not necessarily a great coach is a great athlete, and vice versa. And that gets mixed up. Some people are looking for coaches, are looking for these great athletes that are all doing online programming, but they don't know their ass on their elbow. But she is genuinely an incredible coach, like world standard coach, and she's just an impeccable athlete. She's both. She's been competing since she was 7 years old. She's an incredible human. Incredible human. I'm very blessed to have her around me.
Thank you very much, Dan. We're going to jump to Vinesy here, right? So, Vines, you're not going to get the lead up, the same lead up.
I don't know if I can follow that, if I'm honest.
Did I do all right?
It's good.
Vinesy, the reason why I wanted to bring you on is interesting though, right? Because it was for myself as well. So like, I would consider what you would be part of like the old school in terms of football, today's old school, right? But one thing that fascinates me about you is the way that you communicate, right? So being in football, the old school tend to like to make it clear that I'm old school, you know, like effing and blinding and shouting and hollering, right? But you're a bit unique, right? You come at like it from a different angle, and you're a lot more understanding of the new school, right? So give me your take on that. Give me your take on that first.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, look, for me, a lot of the lessons that I've learned from playing the game, from one aspect, I am very old school. I loved being involved. I only ever played non-league football, right? So I loved the lower league stuff. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the dressing room. Like, I've grown up in the dressing room. So my dad and my uncle played football. My uncle played to a reasonably good level. My dad played like amateur football, but I grew up around, you know, old White All Soil and Liniment, and you know, all the boys in there after the game having a beer, and so that aspect of it I really enjoyed. And you know, staying in the bar after and having a few pints, and then all going out together and actually playing together on a Sunday morning as well. And so it was that camaraderie and that team spirit. That part of the game I loved. I hated the disorganised, I tell you my way or the highway sort of mentality, which is why I had so many clubs, right? Because people would come to me and say, like managers would say, this is how we're going to do it, and if you don't like it, you can go. And I'd go, see you later, because that didn't wash with me. In terms of my communication style, what I try to do is to try to be thoughtful, and every word is potentially a weapon, and I can be spiteful. I'm far too articulate, and you know, dare I say, intelligent. So if I'm shooting something at you, it's a hard, cold, factual, spiteful, nasty, and you can choose to use that weapon for good or evil. My dad, bless him, his dad weren't around. You know, I doubt he'll watch this anyway, but he might do. So apologies, Dad. But his dad wasn't around, so he grew up. He brought himself up effectively. So he tried. He was great. He tried his best, but his approach wasn't always the greatest. And he is a fan of whoever shouts the loudest must be right. So when he used to shout at me, I remember when I was a kid, I used to just blank it out. I could see his face and his lips moving, and I couldn't hear anything. It just used to blast past me. So I tend to lower my voice. I tend to be really direct and slow with my language so that every word lands.
Do you know what I was going to say to you? You've got the most calming voice, bro. I was going to say it before. I'm like, I could just listen to you chat. He's just got this, you got a voice for radio.
I think it's important. I think I've developed that over the years.
Oh, you practiced it, yeah?
I don't know whether I've practiced it. I think it's definitely developed. And I'm not always calm. And I was fiery and I am fiery, and I've got, you know, a terrible temper. And, you know, so there's lots and lots of bad stuff that come with me. I know that I'm not perfect, but what I've tried to do is try and explain myself, because if I can understand the message that I'm trying to deliver, then you can understand it. I can make it as simple as, or I might need to flip the switch on that and say, well, that doesn't work, and now try this approach. So it's something I've been very conscious of, certainly in the last 10, 15 years, to try and impact people, especially those that I'm coaching or that I'm around, or that they see me as a role model, as a mentor, as an influencer. Because whether you realise it or not, there's always somebody that's influenced by what you're doing. Not these new influencers where they're doing TikTok dances. You know, it's a real influencer. Is that you know, a good example would be, we had an ex-pro come in when we were at Cray Wanderers, a guy called Charlie McDonald. You might know Chaz. Yeah. And we had lots of young, impressionable players, and he came in with a foam roller. And he didn't say anything to anyone, but he'd be in 15 minutes early on the foam roller. 2 weeks later, all the youngsters have got foam rollers.
Yeah.
Because his performances, and they looked up to him like he's a bloody good player. What's he doing that I'm not doing? And I think as you grow up, and it might happen at 20, it might happen at 30 for me, having children, 30, 32, that's when things really started to click in for me that you're an influencer. You're
leading by example.
You're leading by example, yeah.
It's so interesting, I being honest, when I first went into the football environment, I struggled. Like someone shouting at me, I would be like, whoa, you're allowed to talk to me like this, I felt like a bit like a school kid. I know it might, Dan, you said earlier that I felt immature for a long time. I felt like a school kid. Anytime I'd match it with like rebellious kind of energy. So I could have done with someone being a little bit more controlled. I've got a question for you both, right? So I want you to pick a point in your life where you would say that you consider dark, rough times, whatever term you want to use, right? And like the mechanism that turned it, right? And you don't have to get too deep with actually the dark time, right? Obviously, Dan, you mentioned where you was at. The mechanism that turned it, right? And how you would pass that on to someone listening. Does that question make sense?
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Dan?
Yeah.
It's okay. You can use CrossFit again.
I think. Well, CrossFit is my mechanism. It is. It most certainly is. But I would say, of course, my lowest point was prison. And the mother of my children, she ran off with my best mate while I was inside. It was a Dear John letter. Everyone gets them. And that's when I was at my lowest point. And Paul, who came to me and said to me, look, come and start training with me. He went, well, you got to move. So you might as well move. Otherwise, you're just going to rust up. So let's go and do something. And I think I would say we talk about fitness. People talk about fitness like, oh yeah, it'd be great for you and it get your head right and da. You got, as a human being, you got to move. You've got to, and you've got to find a way to find a release of some nature, and whether that's going for a walk, whether it's doing a couch to 5K, whether it's finding an event and you want to go and compete in it. At the end of the day, you got to move. You don't move, you die. It's as simple as that. You're gonna become a nothing. So the most important thing is that you move in some aspect of or another. And I started to realise that I needed to move, and when I was moving, I felt great. I was like, just for that moment in time, I was forgetting where I was and what was going on in my life. I just had this release, and I actually felt, even as I'm walking back into a cell, I was like, I feel great. I've done something productive. I've had something productive. I've done something better than what I would do. And that's where the journey started for me. And that's what I feel I try and transfer to people. CrossFit's a tough business. It's a tough sell for people that haven't got any fitness background. And it shouldn't be, because what they do is they look at the fittest person in one of my rooms and they go, holy shit, that's what I'm going up against. And it's like, no, hold on. Look at the other 20 people that are standing around them. It's not what you're going up against. Everybody's going to go on a journey. You've got to go and do something. Get in the eye of someone, get round someone that's got a good eye for you, wants the best out of you, and just start doing it, whether that's going to kick a football about or whether that's going to go and train in the gym or whatever it is. You got to move, and that was my mechanism. My mechanism to turn it round from a dark place was fitness, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. And I think it's funny because this is a pretty new journey for me, trying to transfer this over to men, because it might be a bit early to say this, and if I'm going on a little bit, do tell me, because I don't want to make the story too long. But it's only been in the last 3 months. I've been doing this 10 years, and it's in the last 3 months I found men have started to be a little bit more open with me, and whether that's because I've changed or whether that's because it's become more socially acceptable. And
in terms of vulnerability,
yeah, I think that's a great, that's the word I'm looking at.
Well, I think that you come across quite intimidating, and I obviously don't take offense to this, Danny Webster, who I signed up before I came in, but that's because I'm like definitely a meathead, definitely doesn't really want to have a conversation about I would not have ever dreamt of you having this conversation here, but obviously that's on my end. I know that's how I perceived you, you know. So and I know you've done the men and the meat thing at Phobos. I think that.
Well, that's what I was about to go on to. I know how I look, and I'm aware of it. I've got scars on my face, bald head, and I'm a big guy, but I'm a soft lad, really. You know, I'll genuinely give a shit about people. I really do. Someone could be a member at my gym. If they called me at 3 a.m. saying they weren't right, I'll drive to you, whatever. I'll do anything for anyone. I want someone that makes me happy. Maybe I'm doing that for my own fix, but that makes me feel really good when I help someone, and I'm probably doing it for my own fix. But I really like that feeling. And funny enough, I was talking to some people, and I spoke to one person, and I'm like, you're lonely, bruv. Like, I'm talking to this guy, and I'm like, you're lonely, man. Like, you're not here just for fitness. You're a lonely guy, and like you're probably a couple of dilemmas off of doing something stupid. And instantly, and I'll never say who that person is, and they probably don't even know who they are. And I instantly went, I need to do something where we get some men together. And straight away I was like, Damo, come on, let me do something with you. And in all fairness, I don't necessarily. This is how our first one went. This is how our first fucking video. This is how I'm a grabber. I'm a grabber like this. But that funny enough, this is our first meeting, and I was like, I'm not going to put anything on it. I just put a shout out to all of our members, and I said, bring 2 friends if you want. And I said, all we're going to do is we're going to lift some heavy stuff. I'll have a little chat about a subject that will probably be relevant to a lot of people. And we spoke about testosterone. And I'd done a talk on that. I started Mike Tyson's best knockouts on the TV, and I went, right, 1 rep max deadlift, 1 rep max bench. Go and pick someone you've never spoken to, and you should go and lift some weight. And that's what we've done. And if you don't know how to bench, come and see me. I'll help you. And it wasn't about a Phobos. We held it there, but it was about me just getting some guys together, and we all got talking, and then we put a little WhatsApp group together. And I think there's what I'm starting to learn is, I think there's people that have depression, and then there's people that are just depressed at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think the two get mixed up. And I wouldn't know what to do with someone that has depression. I don't know what to do with that person, because that's a chemical imbalance, and I think that takes a real professional to do that. Not that I would not want to help. I'm not qualified to do that. But I do know what it's like to be depressed, and I know what it feels like to be in that rut. And I know what it feels like when you're grinding, and when you're like, I just need someone to say to me, like, you're all right, mate. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you're all right,
mental health, it was quickly turning into the mental health pod, right? But that everybody's got mental health. Right, it's
100%.
It's not like all of a sudden it's just sprung on you. It's something that we all live through, whether there's pressure, whether there's relationship difficulties, whether there's challenges, you know, where you can't see your kids, whatever it might be, it's affecting your mental health in a fashion, whether that's negative or positive.
Yeah.
But it's everybody understanding it and everybody being comfortable speaking about it. And just, I've got a group of mates who, you know, they're pretty good, right? Where you say, well, how are you? And they go, yeah, I'm all right. And I, well, yeah, but how are you really?
Yeah,
right. And being comfortable asking that question is the first port of call. But then being open and vulnerable enough to go, look, you know what? I'm not having a great time of it because of X, Y, Z. And it could be quite easily fixed over a cup of tea. And you know, I've always been quite guilty. One of my toxic traits is trying to fix everybody else's problems.
Yeah.
Right? Because we immediately think, like, well, are you all right? Well, what you want to do is you want to...
Yeah.
Some people don't want that. People don't want that. They just want you to listen.
So 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio.
Yeah. And I've learned that in recent years, where sometimes it's not about me parachuting in and saving the day. It's about me going, all right, well, if you want to talk about it, I'm here. If you don't, you don't. But
and I hear you. I'm hearing you. Yeah, I'm hearing you. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with my journey. Is I think I have a beautiful gym. I have a good knowledge of fitness, and I've been in some really dark places. And I just understand that for me, the sport that I tend to do got me out of it. And I'm like, look, for those who want to come round, I'm not asking anything from you. You don't have to perform in any way. I don't care if you can't even lift a barbell. I'll help you. But get round a load of men and these all have a little chat. And we ain't even got to talk about that. But just know you're in a place where sometimes you just, could you imagine, right, if you just introduce one person who just goes and back squats with this other guy, and he just gets to have a conversation with someone that he never would have talked to, and you maybe stop something that could have happened not happening. Do you know what I mean? And I'd love. I don't think there's any option but to do these things you're doing, and that's like so much credit to you. You know, man, what you do. I'm an amateur to what I'm doing, and Vinesy, I was looking at what you do. You guys have been around men and doing this for a long time. I haven't. I'm pretty new to working specifically on guys and how I can help them, and what we can do to get men talking. I think that's what I'm trying to do. Can I get men talking? That's probably where I'm trying to get. But you boys are seriously changing lives. You are, and I think it doesn't matter. It's not even about the knowledge that you got of football, and it's not even about the knowledge you got of fitness. You're bringing guys together, and you're taking something that you love and that you know, and you're really making a difference. And obviously you're working with the younger generation, which is so important as well. So important. You got some big shoulders that you're walking with.
Do you know what, Dan? I think
I told him he's got big shoulders.
yeah, first and foremost, let's just make sure that we know. Let's just make sure the shoulders got hair. We're just gonna just before we ask you that question, right? What I think vulnerability is a big thing. So I don't think it's about having a pity party, but I think creating a space where people just feel okay. You know, like for example, Dan, like someone like yourself, Vinesy, like even like the non-league space that you're in. Like people might look at big growly Vinesy, like problems you've had. Like, is there a space they can talk to you about these problems? Danny Webster, like this big like meathead
I
lifter.
get it a lot.
Does that make sense?
People always say to me, like when I meet people, they work. If they're like one of my players, they come into the squad, or I meet them outside football. They go, "You're not what I thought you was."
I agree.
Because when I played, I was nasty. I was a winner. I was a competitor. I'd leave it on people. Like there's a million and one. You ask loads of people stories about me, and you'll get completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Completely different. So it'll be, he's great. I played with him. He was terrific. Versus, he bashed me up in the tunnel somewhere, or mad stuff.
Yeah.
But there's my life is littered with these sort of crazy, completely contrasting experiences, and it's about a different day, how we met, what the situation was at the time. Obviously I've grown out a lot of that stuff, but creating an environment where people first are able to be themselves, and again, if I'm honest and if I'm completely vulnerable, right, with this where we are today, Dan, the football dressing room is the only true place where I can be myself.
Okay.
Because if you're operating in these different environments, if I go into the corporate world and I've worked in big businesses, then there's a facade that you've got to put on.
100%.
There's a persona, which is fine, and it's 70% of who you are. And then you might be with your mates on the estate, and then you're 70% of who you are.
And the accent
there,
changes.
It's a different 70%. And then when you're in a dressing room, you can just be you. So I think that's really, and that's okay. That's fine.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there a problem with that, though?
No, I don't think there is. But I think it depends on who you talk to and where they're from and what their backstory is. You can carry it like a shield, and it could be this mask that you're putting on.
Is it a universal etiquette? Like you say, like you're in the changing rooms, and it's just because I've not had that experience. I've never played football or a team sport in that nature.
But you're getting it with your CrossFit,
but
right?
I get it with but I'm trying to relate to it. Like, is it CrossFit has got a certain etiquette about how you do things, and it sounds like there's you go in there and it's like it's a written rule, it's an etiquette. You understand anything that goes on in these four walls as we talk with ourselves, and that's this is the one place we can do that.
As a player, did you feel the same way, or is it as a manager? Did you feel the same way as a player? Like from each dressing room, you could be yourself in any dressing room. Yeah,
there was only one or two where I was really uncomfortable. Whether it was there were people in there that I didn't get on with, or I was within myself. As I started working my way up the levels, because I played a lot of football at a junior age at 17, 18 in men's football, where I was the youngest and I was looked after, but I was super comfortable. I never sort of suffered with, and they talk about imposter syndrome or anything. Never had that with football, never ever. I always felt I belonged wherever I went. Different in the work environment because, you know, particularly when you're starting early on in your career and you're thinking, well, how am I in this room with these people? Got a hell of a lot easier as the years went by. I realised everybody is living that same life.
So true.
Everybody
it's really
is.
true, yeah.
So it wasn't my comfort. It was recognising their discomfort and then putting them at ease, going, well, don't worry about it. You know, if you've got to go and stand up in front of 100 people and do a talk on a topic, well, after the second or third time you go, well, actually, I know the topic. They're asking me questions. I know the answers. Everybody's here to see me. Like, what am I worried about? And it got to that. So it's not even about being confident or having that bravado. It's just going, do you know what? Just forget that, because you're looking inside for something that's simply not there.
So there's an amazing saying I live by, and it relates exactly to what you're saying. Fear loses its potency when the unknown becomes familiar. And I live by that. It's a fear that's just, you know, false evidence appearing real. Fear. It isn't in anything, and so many of us, and that's like the first time you walk into my gym, there's that fear there, you just need to get in and realise it ain't all the ideas, the conversations you have with yourself before anything's happened, the circumstances you've built up in your mind before they've ever gone on, and this is men's problems.
Catastrophizing.
We're so busy, man. We're so busy.
Is it harder now though? Is it harder, like, would you know, for like the kids and that, like with the social medias, is it harder to like manage all of that you're talking about?
I struggle with it.
Yeah, I feel. Listen, when I have a conversation, I'm a very straight talking person, and it works for me and works against me. I have people leave because of it, but I coach the way I coach. I'm straight talking because I feel there shouldn't be room for bullshit. Say how it is, like what you were saying. And I feel when someone's being a victim, tell them they're being a fucking victim. But at the same time, say to them, look, I get it, but you're being a victim. Come on, it's all. There's people that need a stick, people that need a carrot. I say that to you as well. Yeah. And there's a little bit of that going on. And I do see that being a man has been to boys now. Being a man has been bastardized a little bit. Like, I think.
Explain that a little bit more, Dan. What do you mean by that?
Do you know what? I saw a great Instagram the other day, and I've got to tell you because I think it got it to a T. So there's a geezer walking down, and there's this guy dressed up as a kid in the alleyway, and he goes, it's 1992, comes up and he goes, excuse me, mate, go and get me 10 sovereign, please, mate. And the geezer goes, yeah, no worries, bruv, gives him some change. And he steps up to this time of year, and this kid's got this bright jacket on, his eyebrows are all done. He goes, hey, mate, can you get me a pineapple vape and a prime, please, bro? And it's like, it's just, I think kids need to understand. If you said to my son, what's a man's job? Say that to my Jude when you see him, and I'll tell you what he'll say to you. He'll go to you, look after women. Okay. And that's exactly what he'll say to you. What's a boy's job? Look after girls. And that's the first thing he'll say to you. And I just feel like it's all right to be a guy, you know, and it's all right to be a man, and I think we should teach our kids that. I think we're too gentle and too
do you think
cotton
that's
gloves.
become a negative thing now? To like,
I do,
to look at it through that.
I do.
It's difficult, right?
It's a tough political.
Yeah. It's a you know, to commit this to video that goes out there in the wide world, right? It's a dangerous thing, right? Yeah. But I look at it. We've got a tradition. Like my marriage is very traditional in that there's certain jobs and there's certain aspects of it that my wife is better at than I am, right? And she does. And there's certain aspects that I'm better at than she is. Not an awful lot, right? But, and I do those bits. But you know, you're joint parents.
That's it.
And you know, you're both working towards being as good as you possibly can be for your children. But you can want thoughtful, nice, caring men and husbands and brothers and etc., and that's terrific. But then I also feel being a masculine man
That's the term.
I think the
That's
word.
what I'm
I think the
looking for.
word is being demonised more than.
Yeah.
So, for example, you know, if you wake up at 2:00 in the morning and there's a burglar, you want to masculine.
Yeah. Suddenly it's
that-
all right.
Yeah. Then all of,
Yeah.
all of-
Yeah.
So, but and then that's not to say that, you know, but then I'm not looking at it saying, well, women's place is this or that, or women can't play football, women can't do. Women can do everything. I tell you what, the shame of it is, women can do pretty much everything that we do, and more often than not better.
Yeah.
That's a matter of fact.
Got a high pain
Yeah,
threshold, I'll tell you that.
That's
now.
a matter of fact. But there's a balance to it. And depending on what the relationship is, who that person is to you, what you do for them and what they do for you is down to you. And other people's opinion on it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's my personal view. Because if
But
they're
I
going to
think
tell
we
me
have
that,
responsibilities as men. And look, listen, we've come on. Whacking your son, you're whacking your kids ain't right. I don't believe in that. But I do think that the hard discipline on children is, in my opinion, like I want my son to fear my voice when he knows he's being naughty.
Yeah.
You know, that voice from dad, oi. And that's you want him to understand that role. And I want him to grow up with that role. And he understands, you know, you speak, you hold a certain way about it. I think maybe we might go off topic a little bit, and I worry that. But
No, that's important. I think it's important.
I think we have roles. My wife raises my son. I don't see. I'll train. I coach, and the hours I commit to the business. We both took an agreement. I run the business, and don't get me wrong, she plays a massive role at Phobos. But I have a huge role that I play because her role is to bring our son up. She picks him up from school. I've never picked up my son from school on my own. I've either been with my wife or I've been working, so she does that. We have our roles. But also, she knows if I come in and I'm talking to my son and I'm having a chat with him because of the way he's behaved, because that's going to help him understand as a man what he should become. That she knows that's not her place to stand in. She'll step back. And I think, you know, if you know, when you're taking that, what's the word I'm looking for? That role as your dad, where you're I can't think of how I'm trying to explain it really. You might help me out here a bit, Fighty, because you're quite articulate. When you're mentoring your son as a man,
a role model.
Yeah, as a role model, but also giving him guidance, and you're probably doing that in a form of discipline. You know, my Gemma knows that's. Hold on, you're doing your thing as a dad.
It's also not what you say though; is what you do.
Yeah,
I think that's probably a much bigger aspect of it than we give it credit for.
Are we falling short though? That's what do you reckon? So if there is like this kind of issue that's happening, right? Is that us as fathers, men, the latter generation? Are we falling short, Vindy?
I think what's interesting about it, I've had this discussion with another group of friends that you will know, and we spoke about, you know, are our kids soft? Are our kids entitled? Look, hard times makes hard people, right? So when I think about, you know, my grandparents, you know, my granddad was in the war, he was in the merchant navy, he was a tough man, he was a bricklayer, he was rough as they come. He was also a certified lunatic, right? So that relationship with his wife, my nan, was fractious, lots of children, 7 sons, half of them lunatics. You're building, it's generational pains, right?
Yeah.
Then, you know, come to my mum and dad, and then to me, I haven't lived through a world war. You know, I'm not. I can't say that I'm a particularly tough man. I've lived through 3 meals a day. You know, did we have lots of stuff? No, but did we suffer off the back of it? No. My kids are fortunate. Live in a nice house, they've got nice stuff, got Sky TV in their rooms, all that. So is that their fault? No. I've done that. My wife's done that. But can you instill in them an appreciation for the things that they do have? Can you reward behaviours and character traits and values that you feel will help them in later life? Absolutely, yes. So my eldest daughter, she likes money. She likes money. She's out and about now. Yeah. She's out and about. She loves it. Right, can I have 20 quid? Yeah, you can. If you do the bed sheets.
Rewarded, yeah.
If you do that. So it's about you know, it's the same with anything, right? If you're training the dog and the dog keeps weeing on the carpet, it's not about kicking the dog. It's about treating the dog when it goes outside. Yeah. So we're you know, I'm not likening children to dogs, but you know, can you encourage the right behaviours?
I'll be completely honest, and I think, you know, so one of my daughters I haven't spoken to for a year. She's 14, and it's like what you said is, I got her a job with my dad. I said, right, you want to earn money? She was 13. I said, you want to earn money? You want to go and buy stuff in Primark? Good. But you're going to have to work on a Saturday, and Granddad will give you 20 quid and I'll give you 20 quid. All right? But it was my son's birthday. I said, you're not working this weekend. You can come with us. I want to work. And we had an argument in the car, which resulted in her mum coming to pick her up. And something that would have been resolved if she lived with me overnight. Literally now I changed the number, blocked her number. I've not spoken to my daughter for a year, just off of that one argument. And it was like, I've obviously done something wrong as a parent. I don't know whether I was too soft or it was whether my guidance was wrong. And you go, right, I can't let that. And I'm so close to my other daughter and my son. And I think what kids don't get is the importance of understanding discipline and understanding you can't, you know, you can't just have what you want. It doesn't work like that.
Like delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification, yeah.
You know what? Two things I'll touch on is, you know, hardships. You said hard times create strong men create good times create weak men. They say, don't they? Yeah. You done a talk on testosterone the other day, right? And it was so scary to hear.
I'll send that to you.
Oh wow! Like the importance of a man doing hard things, like resistance training. And I think that's one thing, just referencing back to like training, like is being able to like replicate hardship through exercise. You know,
that's where the growth comes, right?
The growth comes, and like the body's need for this resistance training, wasn't it? It was that discussion and the well-being factor you got from the testosterone, right?
The way to increase testosterone to its best capabilities is that you should be training. You should never go to you want to rarely go to failure, but you want to push yourself to your maximum potential. But the problem with going to failure is you don't get the endorphin. So if you don't hit the rep that you're trying to get, it doesn't feed back to the brain in a positive sense, and that actually lowers testosterone. But hitting a weight and working roughly around, don't get me wrong, you should test your heaviest lifts, but if you're hitting a weight around 98%, so you're always dealing with around 80 to 98% in your style of training as your lift. So say it's 100 kilos, you're playing around 90 kilos. Then that's going to give you your biggest testosterone. I'm currently
working with 10 kilogram dumbbells, so
but that's
all of this is
no, but that's great, and that's fantastic because your work. But then you work off percentages. When we're at Phobos, the way we do things is RPE. We go off a feel a lot of the time, and it'd be like, because we test people to their heaviest lifts. But if I say to you, right, I want you to do a 7.5 out of 10. Oh, what's that? Whatever that feels to you. Give me what feels like a 7 out of 10. I don't know. All right, what does that feel like? 5 out of 10. Good. Whack. What's that feel like? Whoa, that's a 9. Good. Meet me in the middle. There's your 7. That's your 70. And the reason why you go off feel, because you might one day be on fire when you walk in with me, and then the next day when you come in, you might have had a row with the missus. You've had some drama with the car. The dog's pissed on the carpet. You know what I mean? Your kids hustling you for 20 quid, you know, and you walk in and the first thing you see is me, and I go, all right, going at 90%. At least give me a 9 out of 10 for today, whatever that is.
I admire you because you both enjoy you both enjoy training. I still do not love it. I've never faked it. Yeah. I do it because I have to do it because I've made a promise to myself. I can't go out and have a run and come back and go, like, I feel great. I never have done. Yeah. You know, like some people have got that genuine.
I don't love training.
Yeah, I would argue. I don't think I love it the way you think I love it. No. I think I like the idea of what comes from it. You know, like, and I love the whole like that. I don't think like going for a run. I'm like, this is dog shit.
And this guy can run. Right? Yeah, I'm like, he's a freak. Right? He's a freak. The geezer's a freak. It's like something's chasing him constantly, right? But here's the thing: is I don't necessarily love training. It's just what I do. And 30% of the time, I'm going to I'm going to love it. 30% of the time, I will love it. And 70% of the time, it's just something you got to do because you got to do it. You got to train.
But there's a big value in that, though, right? Is that discipline to just do it.
But also knowing mechanisms. So like, even if you don't like training, going to somewhere like training, there's a couple guys, I don't want to train. I turn in and I'm like, right, you lot ain't going to beat me. You know, like that.
It's finding that.
There's that mentality. And then there's a mentality is that, say, for example, Vinesy might go, do you know what I'm going to go in today? Because I want to go and I just want to go and see the boys. But that's great. Just come and do. Mike Tyson said, do the thing that you hate the most like you love it. Just go and do it. Get on with it. And whatever you're doing. If you've just moved, I don't care how much you've moved. If you've just moved more than what you would have done if you didn't turn up, then we've had a great day. And let's see if tomorrow you feel a bit better about it. But fine, just turn up each day. Be consistent. Because and if you're if you would say I'm not fit, it took you a long time to become unfit. You don't just get fat.
That's a big problem.
It takes a long time to get fat.
Yeah.
Right? So people are like, it takes ages to get fit. Well, no, it took you just as long to get fat. So this now work on that length of time getting you fit. Because what happens is when you get yourself fat, what you do is you have a small bit of gratification. And I know people don't like using that term, but to turn into a big human being, overweight human, right? You spend a small amount of time you spend the amount of time eating that gives you a gratification, and then you spend the rest of the time really pissed off about it. Well, training is just a little bit on his head. You spend a small amount of time going, this absolutely sucks, but then you spend the rest of the day going feeling great. And that's what you got to do, is just see it that way. And then everyone's looking at everyone else. Don't worry about anyone else, all right? Just enjoy the journey. You know, and then no one wants to climb, everyone wants the view. And it's like, look, go and do the climb, you enjoy it, and just do it at your own pace. Just
With
move.
your program, what I've said it to you before, but it's worth talking about again, is I feel better seeing other people's success stories than my own. Because there's guys on, I won't call their names out, but there's guys on there that have come a long way. And where we've sort of been on the journey the same amount of time, I haven't lost loads of weight. Definitely my body's changed. Definitely I'm fitter, I'm stronger than I was. My mindset's better, 100%. But there's guys that have come a really long way, unbelievable. And when they post up their little success stories, you know, you've got to be a really nasty person not to feel great on their behalf. Because I'm going, and then you go, he's done. Them three, I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit now. It incentivizes you. It's that.
You know what I would say though? I don't think enough men share that kind of like energy. You know, that kind of like, they might feel it, but I said it the other day, and like, you do it. You know, like saying like, you're killing it. Like, you know, like you're killing it. You're doing well, and like sharing that kind of like, oh my god, like,
it's got to be genuine.
Come on,
it's got to be, you go, I'm buzzing off that.
I'm buzzing off.
Look what you just, mate. That's unreal,
mate. And this is why I say to everyone get in a CrossFit box, because that is the culture. There is no room for egos, because CrossFit's so hard it'll chew you up. It just gets harder. So ain't no one coming in there and winging it. It just gets harder and harder. So you've got, everyone is cheering on. Usually the person that's last is probably the most advanced athlete, because they've got so much more of a challenging workout to do. But everyone's happy for everyone's success. There is no room for it. Definitely not in my gym, it's not.
We're going to wrap it up, but I want to, without sounding too cheesy, I want like you both work with people, you both work with men. What would you say, your darkest points? I kind of asked this question earlier. He's come to you, someone's come with you, low point. What would be your piece of information to give that person, but make it actionable? I don't want to quote. What would you say to someone? Go away, do this. You must do this now to turn your life around. Vines, you go first.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, right? Because, like I said, my toxic trait is trying to save everyone. It's trying to fix everybody's problems. Everybody's got their own view on the world. I would probably say that depending on how extreme the situation is, if it was something that's salvageable, if it's your own health, or I've had a million chats with people about particularly men over 40, you know, talking about having regular checkups, regular medical checkups, dare I say it, the prostate and things like that, right? How comfortable or uncomfortable are you getting that checked? So first you need to know your start point. Is it physical? Is it mental? And then it's about, I know that a lot of people have gone to therapy. I must admit, I've never done it, so I don't know the benefits or not, but I've spoken to a lot of people that have seen huge turnaround in their lives. That self-awareness piece. I think for you to make any change, you need to know who you are and where you're at. The reason that I came to you, and I did come to you, and we've known each other a long time, and it was sort of, I always watch from afar. I'm like, this is great what he's doing, but it's probably not for me. And I had a little episode where I sat in my office, highly stressed, loads going on, business crumbling around me, and heart rate going. And I started to see stars, and I thought, I'm in trouble here. There's something going on. I think I'm having a heart attack, and it was stress. Went to the doctor, went to the hospital, had all the blood tests and everything. And then I came to him and said, look, I'm half man, half sofa. Do you remember?
Yeah, you said it, yeah.
So I stopped playing football and I just stopped exercising, because the only reason I exercised was to be good at football. And now I don't play, I don't care. But I need to care again.
Yeah.
And I went back to basics. So I think it's a form of self-love, right? It's the way that you can truly say, I love myself, is by looking after your body and looking after your mind. Yeah. And I'm not the most open. I'm not going to be sat there with people telling them how I feel all the time. That's just not me. But if I can get my body right, the mind's going to follow.
100%.
Powerful, you know. And the self-awareness bit, I think that's king. You know, sometimes people just do things because of it, being aware of who you are.
They're being reactive to something. And I think what you said, that if a problem can be solved, it's not worth worrying about. If a problem can't be solved, it definitely ain't worth worrying about. And you need to get that mentality in your head. I think it's important that you have one man in your life that you can call.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
It's really important. I got one person in my. You've obviously got your wife, but it's different. You have one man. I've got Hussein. You know, I can call that man at any time, anything. I can tell him anything, and he'll do what you say. He'll just listen. And he's a wise guy as well. He's a smart guy. But I think it's important that you find that one man in your life. If not, go and find someone that can give you some sort of mentoring that can help you in one way or another, whether that's a therapist, whether it's a coach, whether it's a priest, whatever it is. I think it's important that you find that person in your life. And I think the next thing is understanding that you need time for you. It's so important. Men don't do it. I will work, I will drive home, I go and see my wife, I see my son, which is another part of it, my family part of it. But then I'm like, I'm not, and then I'm back at work. And it's important so to find that time, and if you, whatever it is, and it ain't scrolling, but a chess, it could be going to the gym, it could be, just find yourself 1 hour.
Do you know,
just so important.
Do you know what's really interesting? I talk a lot about, because I'm in the talent space, I talk a lot about...
What's that mean? What do you mean?
So recruitment, talent, people, HR-y type.
You looking at me like...
No, like you should know, yeah.
What am I doing?
No, but where the world has evolved, right, post-COVID, when it was like everybody, all of a sudden, the world switched off and you're all working from home.
Yeah.
What I lost as an individual was an hour and a half commute. A lot of people are like, well, I've got 3 hours back a day. But actually, that journey into work was me changing from being a dad to going into work and focusing on, for the next 8 hours, on what I've got to do that day. And the journey home was me switching off from being, you know, a leader to being a dad again. And that decompression time, I think a lot of men have lost that.
Yeah.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
And it's a big, so finding that again, whether it is get out and do your steps, you know, even if it's an hour at the end of the day, you've been working indoors all day or you've been in the gym or whatnot, and you get out and you do an hour where it's all about you, and you might have your music on, You might be listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, audio
Shooting
book,
rats.
whatever.
Shooting rats.
in your
Mate,
garden.
funny. Honestly, right? So
I
just
was
to
like,
put
is
into
this for real?
context, just to put into context of people listening to this, we're messaging about how this podcast's going to go. And then what we get is Sniper over here. There's a picture of the rat catcher laying in his garden, ready to catch some rats. And mate, this is what was that? 10:30 last night, and my son's asleep, and I just roared with laughter. My missus is going mad at me down the stairs. It was big. Look, on a note though, and let me just, and it's just one thing, which is talking about fitness, right? 95% of any gym that you walk into is full of people that are not athletes.
Yeah.
That means, now just look at that from a business aspect. That means the person that owns that business relies on that 95% of the population. People don't come into the gym environment because of the 5% that they think everybody is.
Yeah.
It is not how the world works. It is 95% of people that just want to get fit. So if you walk into an environment, if you're walking into a gym and everyone's an athlete, you've probably walked into a pro place. It's very unlikely. And they must have one hell of a specialist skill to be able to run as a business. We rely, our demographics, all gyms are, is that you have people that are looking to get fit. All right, that's a demographic. So whether that's going to a football club, whether it's going to a rugby club, whether it's going to a dojo, whether it's going into a gym, and I recommend going into a gym that is run by a coach that's going to help you, the chances are 95% of the people in that gym are there because they're trying to go on a fitness journey, not because they're trying to compete at some sort of sport.
Yeah.
So look at it that way, that's how a business needs that larger population of people. And if my gym, if I just relied on the income from my athletes in my gym, which is about 5 people out of 250, I would not be running a gym.
Yeah.
So go and find, and you will be welcome with open arms. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. Everyone shit at something when they first start it. Yeah. You suck at it, you're going to. But then you're just going to suck a little bit less. And then it just becomes that thing that you do and you forget that you even sucked at that. You know, just start the motion, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, but do something that's for you, which is outside of maybe people that you know, and find that one person that you can speak to. And with those two things, I think that can really get you out of a pretty dark place.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you very much to both of you, man. I definitely agree with, as a mentor and a coach, that's helped me in my life. Just finding one person and being able to vent and get support from that person, and also being self-aware, because a lot of times I've made the mistake of just copying someone else's solution. Listen, this isn't the most attractive podcast lineup you'll ever see, but
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, mate?
But listen, I've
Have you
enjoyed
seen them
it. But I've enjoyed it nonetheless. Thank you very much for watching the Dad Pod. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for having us. Cheers.